Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host of the Top Business Leaders Show, where we feature CEOs, entrepreneurs, and top leaders in the business world. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses reach their dream relationships and connect with more clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships and get ROI through done-for-you podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships, there's no better way than to profile the people and companies you admire on your podcast. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Jodi Daniels is founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, a privacy consultancy helping companies from startup to Fortune 100s create privacy programs, build customer trust, and achieve GDPR, CCPA, and privacy law compliance. Jodi is a certified informational privacy professional and serves as the outsourced privacy office for companies. She's also host of the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast and is a member of the Forbes Business Council. Jodi, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So what made you decide to get into data privacy?
I was just sharing the same story earlier today, and it's always so much fun to reflect on it. Years ago, I was in marketing. I was at autotrader.com, and we created a targeted ad network, which meant we basically were utilizing the data when you came to AutoTrader and served you a targeted ad when you left autotrader.com and tried to stalk you for cars. Nowadays, people are really used to that for just about everything, whether it's a lighting fixture, your shoes, or the mortgage that you're trying to apply for. Everything is following you around the internet. But that was how I got started. And basically, the online advertising industry came together and said, we should prevent government legislation with a self-regulatory body, a framework, and I was responsible for that. And from there, I created a full-time privacy program for Cox Automotive, then went and was a digital privacy expert at Bank of America, and left all of that and started my own company, Red Clover. And here we are. But it all started with stalking you for cars. You're
okay. Okay. Well, that's an interesting journey. So in terms of your own company, when did you decide to kind of pull the trigger? Or how did everything just finally come together for Red Clover Advisors to get started?
The honest truth is I put a line in the sand and said, this is when I wanted to start my company. And it kind of coincided with my daughter starting at a new school and realizing we needed some more flexibility. And if I backed myself up from that, I had a lot of strategic conversations with many, many people to make that day a reality. It is honestly how it happened. And then from there, it's been a lot of hard work to continue to grow and have it snowball.
What were the early days like?
Well, I feel like sometimes that now what happened is my timing was very fortuitous with GDPR, which is the EU privacy law. And most people have no idea what that is, but they are familiar with cookie banners all over the website. And they often have GDPR and kind of the EU privacy rules to thank for that. Well, it was becoming into enforcement in effect in May 2018. And I started my company in the fall of 2017, which was around the time that US companies started paying attention and realizing, what do I actually have to do? And what is this thing? And as a result, I was able to really come in and help companies understand what they needed to do and grew the business from the GDPR days. So it was a lot of work and a lot of late nights and rolling up my sleeves and getting it all done.
Is it possible to give us a layman's term explanation of GDPR and CCPA and things like that?
Absolutely. So GDPR, as I said, is the EU privacy law. It stands for General Data Protection Regulation. And it's the modern day data privacy law. If you think about the world is global, everything's on websites, we're moving to cloud, you can use the tool and data's collected all over the place for everything. I kind of mocked how information can follow us and stalk us. Well, but that's really the reality. And it's in everything, our TVs, our cars, our computers, and they needed a modern day privacy law to deal with what kind of data companies collect, use, store, and share. And the law is all about governing those questions for a company. CCPA is the California Consumer Privacy Act, and it is the United States' first state to have the most comprehensive data privacy law. And it's very similar. It's a set of requirements that a company needs to follow when it's collecting, using, storing, and sharing data. Now, CCPA has a little bit of an extra emphasis on this concept of sale of data. That's a very complex term. We could have an entire conversation about that. But basically, they're the modern day privacy laws. And GDPR is extremely strict. CCPA is stricter than where we were, but not nearly as much as where GDPR is.
Can you give me an example of, when you first started getting into this, maybe where it was much more like the Wild West compared to how it is now?
Well, let's use the targeting as a perfect example. Nowadays, or before, you had a cookie, which is a little digital piece of code, basically that could collect information on a browser, a device, and it would track information. So it would know that Jodi was on this website and clicked on these things and went to the next website and collected and tracked on those things. And a myriad of companies, thousands of companies in between, are collecting all that information and sharing it with each other. And ultimately, there's kind of these data brokers and profiles getting created so that if so-and-so company really wants to target moms in Atlanta, they know how to find Jodi. And you, or Jodi in this case, had no idea that that was happening. And I didn't have any choices. Well, nowadays, I need to be informed. I need a privacy notice. The cookie banner, not all cookies are created equal, and not all banners are created equal. But a lot of banners will say, Jodi, you okay with those cookies? Click yes to accept. And that is a requirement now to use those cookies if Jodi's in France. So Jodi moved from Atlanta. I'm hanging out in France. And to target me, you would have to have that banner. And I have to say, yes, it's okay. If I say no, then you can't drop the cookie. You can't follow me around the internet and collect all that data and sell it and share it with the thousands of companies in between. And the other big piece is that Jodi has rights. Maybe Jodi says, you know what, that's okay. You can collect that data. And then I change my mind. And I say, actually, no, I don't really want you to do that anymore. I have rights. I have choices. And companies have to honor what those choices and rights are. And that is, some of that's been around for a while, but not nearly the way it is today.
So when a company comes to Red Clover Advisors, what would they be getting that they wouldn't have if they just did it on their own?
Well, any company can certainly go to Google and attempt to cobble together what is out there. What often happens anytime someone's going to Google is you don't know which is right and which isn't. You're spending hours trying to find the information and piece it all together and hope that you've pieced it all together accurately. What we do is we make all of that really simple. We synthesize it down to basic language and make sure that companies understand what it is that they need to do. Because I believe that every company, regardless of the size, can have simple privacy processes in place at their company. And so we're all about simplifying it and making sure that the company is doing what it needs to do, because not all companies are created equal. And you really have to make sure that it's appropriate and tailored to the company.
And if it's not simplified, how difficult can it be?
Well, I've talked to companies before who have said, I've gone to Google and they make a conclusion. We need to do X, Y, Z. And actually they're wrong. And in some cases, they're wrong in their favor. They actually thought they needed to do a lot of work. We have a conversation. I say, actually, it doesn't apply to you because of X, Y, and Z. And then they don't actually have to do all of the work. Or they say, for a great example is always, I don't have to comply with the California law because I don't sell data. And they've taken one piece because they've read a lot of articles on a very popular topic, but they've misinterpreted it. And if you misinterpret it, what happens when you misinterpret a law? Well, a lot can happen. And the time saved by not having to go to Google and by having a partner in a guide to make sure that you're doing what's best for your business and ultimately your customers, because the whole point of these privacy laws are to protect individuals, and individuals are our customers. And that's what we want to be doing. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our customers and be good business stewards. And we're the partner and guide to make it all simple and get you over the finish line where you need to be.
You have recently written an article for Forbes called How and Why to Leverage Your Company's Privacy Programs During the Sales Process. In that article, you state that privacy is now a product that can and should be sold. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. It ties very closely to what I just shared, where I firmly believe that a company should focus on its customers. When we are trying to market our company, we're talking about the great products and features that we have. We might talk about how it's going to last you forever. It's never going to break. It's going to solve some type of problem for you. It's going to be super easy to set up. Well, privacy and security now is also one of those features and should be one of those features. More than 52% of people will not buy a product or service because of privacy and security concerns. Think about that. That means 1 in 2 people are spending a lot of time finding a product or service and then saying, I don't actually trust the company, so I'm not going to buy that product. If the company really put privacy and security first, they would have that as one of the features, but not just list it as a feature, actually make it a part of their company and understand what are the concerns and objections that individual has and address them and think about it. Just like they're doing with what are all the objections of why they might not buy my product? I need to think about that in all my copy. The same has to be true on the privacy side.
And in the article, you write about businesses adding privacy to their sales collateral, and you list 3 steps. The first is building a trust center. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so think about when you go to a page, you might wonder, how much is the shipping? Or what is the return policy? And you might not buy if you don't feel comfortable. I don't know if I can return this. Or tell me about who you are. What is your customer service policy? A trust center is a page. We're all mostly familiar these days with a privacy policy or privacy notice. It's the link. You see the link. It's often in the footer of every website. I'm sure everyone listening has clicked on every privacy notice and read them from top to bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Because not everyone is going to read those privacy notices, a trust page allows someone to understand at a really nice visual level in a summarized way, hey, here's what we do with your data. Here's the kind of information we collect. If you're an e-commerce site, we collect your name and your contact and address information so we can send you the product. And you know what? We might also collect that information so we can try and sell you more stuff. That's how we collect it. That's how we use it. Who do we share it with? You know what? We only share it with our advertising partners that we know are going to be able to market to you. Or actually, we share it with the whole universe because that's part of our business model. If you don't like that, you have some options. And here's a list of our options over here. I've actually seen that on companies where their business model is to share and sell data. And they're very upfront. If you don't want the service, that's fine. Don't use it. Pay for it. And here's your choices. A trust page is the place to be able to centrally put the information about privacy. And if you're a B2B company, this is incredibly important and becoming more so because privacy and security are becoming a very important distinguishing feature. And if I am being compared, or your company is being compared to another company, and I'm the buying decision maker, and I compare the companies, and you don't have the privacy and security page, who am I going to go give the business to? The company over here who figured out how to create the page to tell me all that you've done for GDPR, all you've done for security, and so on. It's a significant differentiator these days.
The second part of those 3 steps where you write about businesses adding privacy to their sales collateral is add explainers wherever you can. What do you mean by that?
A lot of times companies will ask for information and the person who's going to give the information doesn't really want to give it. I'm sure many people have seen the little drop-down menu, like, how much do you make? And it gives a bunch of options. And then there's the option that says prefer not to answer. Well, why does it have that? Because people don't feel comfortable giving the information. And if you think about a variety of different areas, finance, healthcare, kids information, family information, I might not want to give that to you. And so either if I'm forced to give that information, like I can't keep clicking because it has a little asterisk and I don't feel comfortable, what do people do? They make up the information and now you're actually making decisions on bad data. If you explain why you need the information, not only buried in the privacy notice that I have to go find and dig, but actually up at the time when you're asking me for the information, I might decide, you know what, that makes sense. I see why they need that information now. They've explained it to me. Okay, I'll give it to them.
And then the final step is list privacy and security as a benefit of a product or service.
Yes. Well, I was so excited about this one. I talked a little bit about it already, but it truly is now becoming a list of, is a product or feature that is showing up on a list of all the different items. And that's because people, the buyers, whether I'm a consumer or I'm a company, I'm looking for that information. More than 80% of people are concerned about privacy. Wouldn't we want to address their significant concerns? And that is where you're starting to see it listed, literally all the different features down the list, and you have privacy and security as one of them. And the companies who are missing that are truly missing out on a competitive edge.
For Red Clover Advisors, who might be an ideal client?
So an ideal client is a B2B technology company or service provider, an e-commerce company, or someone in the media space. Maybe it's a digital media property or an advertising agency as well. And we tend to work with all of those different industries because they all impact privacy in a variety of similar and yet still different ways.
When a client comes to you, what type of situation might they be in? Is it like an emergency reaction, or are they trying to be proactive?
The only emergency situations that we really deal with is when a sale is on the line because they don't have their privacy ducks in a row. A sale has come through and the client has said, I won't buy from you unless you can tell me whatever the answers are to the long list of questions. In which case now the company wants the sale and they're scrambling. The other might be that they've waited really close to some of the deadlines for various privacy laws. And hint, hint to anyone listening, January 2023, 2 really big new privacy laws are coming on the forefront. Best to plan in advance to make sure you have plenty of time to get everything done.
Have you seen a client, close a sale based on your assistance in terms of privacy?
We have, absolutely, because they couldn't close the deal if they weren't able to comply with XYZ privacy law. For example, a company wanted to be able to serve a customer and they would be a processor, they would be a service provider under the EU. And as a result, they need to show that they comply with GDPR. If they can't comply with GDPR, no sale. And they were able to get the time that they needed to be able to comply. We were able to get them through what it is that they needed to have done. And then they were able to close the sale.
How long does something like that take?
It really does depend on the size of the company, truly, and the kind of data that that company is taking. But on average, if we have the folks that we need to really be paying attention, it's around 2 to 3 months for kind of a smaller company. The bigger the company, the more complexity, it's going to extend that range out, 4 months, 6 months, and beyond.
Tell me about the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast.
Well, a lot of people in COVID got a puppy and they call them COVID puppies. So my husband and I, we already had a really big puppy, Great Pyrenees. So we decided to do a COVID podcast. And I focused on the privacy. She said privacy. My husband, Jodi Daniels, is a technology attorney with a passion for cybersecurity. And so he brings the He Said Security part to the podcast.
Okay. And then you guys talk about kind of relevant issues in that space.
We do. We really want to cover what a business person needs to hear on privacy and security topics. The theme of simplicity and accessibility and making sure it makes sense, as well as covering a wide swath of topics, because there's so much in privacy and security, and we don't want to get too crazy and too technical. But we've covered things like drones, privacy software, different kinds of security software, and we also, and a long list of other topics. We've done IP and trademark work because there's a connection with privacy to privacy and technology attorneys. And we also have a very important soft spot for children's privacy. And we want to make sure that we are protecting kids and digital safety online. And we'll bring different experts on to make sure that we're covering what all parents need to know and what companies need to be thinking about.
I have one final question for you, but first, how can people find out more about Red Clover Advisors or about your article in Forbes?
They can find all of it at redcloveradvisors.com.
Okay, perfect. Last question. What are some of your favorite books or a podcast maybe that you listen to that helped inspire your current podcast that you've enjoyed recently?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I love how to. So all the podcasts are about how things are made.
Mm-hmm.
I just find those fascinating because I'm so not an engineer, but I find how all of that is created really interesting. I scroll through all kinds of different business podcasts, and I really like Amy Porterfield's Online Marketing Made Easy. The idea of just trying to take a very complex topic and make it easy is something that I try and do in my business as well. And then from a business book standpoint, there's all kinds of books that I love. I really like The Who, Not How from Dan Sullivan. I very much enjoy that one. I like Ask from Ryan Levesque a lot, and I like Atomic Habits.
What about Who, Not How do you like?
I think so often people are, I know myself included, we have great ideas and we're thinking about, well, how do I get that done on top of everything else that I already have? And this philosophy is, well, who could you find to help you execute on that idea? And it just says, and then actually someone somewhere, I literally still have the sticky note on my desk, said they were somewhere and it's millionaires think about how they'll get something done and billionaires think who will get it done. See, like, here's my sticky note.
Oh, wow.
And I love that philosophy because if you think about trying to grow and expand, we all have so much time in the day, and let's try and find the right people who can do the things we're not good at, we don't like, because there's somebody else who is good at them and who does like them.
And you found that to be valuable for you?
I do. I have lots of who's now doing things that are not my best skill set or my best use of time, but now it's everyone's happy. They're getting to do work that fulfills them. I get more time to be able to do the kind of work that I want to be able to do, or spend my time with my family or do something different. I'm still learning. I'm still getting better. Every day is a learning time. Like all of us.
Hey, I really appreciate your time today, Jodi. Thank you so much. That was some great insights.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.